Hell yeah. Stream started. Okay. Uh oh yeah, I gotta do the intro. So what's up guys? And today I'll be streaming about literally watching anything. Yeah, literally watching anything. I'll basically be putting my reactions on videos and yeah. Basically free content. Yeah, let's go. Why are we stations? Actually, yeah, I've always wondered that. Why eat one whilst never eating the other? I've
This
also
video is sponsored
absolutely
by
disliked.
Squarespace. I love crustaceans. I love keeping them in by Square. This
I also really hate.
this video is sponsored by Squarespace. I love crustaceans. I love keeping them in tanks and watching them do their weird crabby lobstery stuff. I love their beady little eyes and their creepy little hands, and I love eating their sweet flaky meat. When it comes to
Hey,
insects,
yo,
I can
pause.
appreciate them. I am certainly fascinated by them, but like most humans, I am at least a little bit afraid of them and more than a little repulsed by the idea of eating them. On its face, this double standard that I apply to crabs versus bugs makes no sense considering that they are the same basic thing. Insects are crustaceans. That is the mainstream phylogenetic view nowadays. Not all crustaceans are insects, but all insects are crustaceans, or at least pancrustaceans. Every animal in this steamer basket is now considered under the taxonomic umbrella Pancrustacea. They're all in the same clade, and believe it or not, bugs taste like crabs too, if you eat them a certain way. I'm gonna show you. The big difference between insects and like land crabs, like my vampire crabs here, is how recently their ancestors first crawled up out of the water. This is, of course, a profound oversimplification, but big picture, aquatic crabs probably first started colonizing dry land like 200 million years ago. Insects have been on dry land since about 500 million years ago, and they are, in many ways, more adapted to life in the open air. Most obviously, a lot of them have wings, which don't do you much good underwater. Crabs have gills, whereas insects don't have any kind of lung-like apparatus at all. This is, again, an oversimplification, but rather than having a whole like pulmonary system like we have, what insects have more so is basically just vent holes. They're covered in these teeny little tubes called trachea that allow oxygen from the atmosphere to just kind of diffuse into their tissues. It is more complicated than that, but this may be one reason why insects tend to be so small, which is a factor that has major culinary implications. They're actually
I'm pretty sure the reason they're small is so that the oxygen in the air can actually diffuse into their skin. Because they don't have, insects don't have respiratory systems. They just, like, let the air into their skin and do inside of their systems. Yeah, I think that's the case. Actually, the reason we had absolutely massive, gigantic, and I'm talking about like gigantic insects back in the day, was particularly because the oxygen levels were such at a high concentration that the bugs were capable of still breathing without suffocating. How do I explain this? The oxygen levels were so high, so dense that they could still breathe through their skin. So they never needed to use a respiratory system like a nose or a lung. So that's the reason bugs were so big before.
used to be giant insects. About 300 million years ago, there was proportionally a lot more oxygen in the
Oh
atmosphere,
yeah,
and that is thought
that's
to have
literally what I just
supported
said.
gigantism among a lot of land animals, including dinosaurs and also bugs, especially if you're an animal that respirates in a relatively passive way, as bugs do, that really could have supported just much larger bodied organisms like this dragonfly from about 300 million years ago that I'm presenting roughly in scale with my body.
That's in
Big
scale?
sucker. You could probably have cut some nice meaty medallions off of that thorax. Weight may have also provided
looks
some
like a
downward
facehugger.
evolutionary pressure on insect size. One defining feature of pancrustaceans, and indeed all arthropods, is their exoskeletons. It's simply easier to haul around a giant heavy set of armor amid the buoyancy of water. There are other hypotheses about why insects tend to be so small. One is that large flying insects may have been outcompeted by flying dinosaurs, aka birds. Remember that dino nuggets literally are dino nuggets. But however it happened, even the biggest insects on Earth today are still small enough that you can't get much meat out of them. There's just not much muscle tissue hiding under that armor. So, when we do eat insects, as in the case of these crickets, we usually eat the whole body, shell and all. When Mexican cooks make chapulines, which are usually grasshoppers, and they don't usually buy them from the pet store.
And that's why people find them so absolutely disgusting. It's because we don't want to eat the exoskeletons. We don't want to eat the leg-looking parts, alright? We want to eat the meat inside, but because they got so little meat in there, we're forced to eat that exoskeleton. I know y'all know this, when you're eating something soft and then for some inexplicable reason, you then crunch into something hard. That is just disgusting. That's the only reason more people aren't eating insects. It's because their exoskeletons are literally acting as a deterrent of sheer disgust.
And they usually marinate and fry them crispy after boiling them to kill them. After that, they fry them crispy. And that makes sense, because if you're going to eat a pancrustacean with its exoskeleton intact, well, you want to lean.
Also, I do know some people that genuinely find that the best part, like the soft inside and the crunchy outside. I do know people that will genuinely eat a cooked cricket, because of that texture. But for most people, hell no, they'd be hella disgusted.
Lean into that crunchy texture. Frying is better than steaming, let me tell you. That exoskeleton, by the way, is mostly made of chitin, kind of similar to cellulose in plants. It's an indigestible, fibrous molecule of the animal world instead of the plant world. It's animal fiber. And in yet another example of how fungi are more similar to animals than they are to plants, mushrooms are also held together with chitin rather than cellulose, especially in these woody stems. Chitin is really tough stuff, which is one reason why you can only cook mushrooms down so much. Eventually you're just kind of left with leather. A crab claw is also clad in chitin, which would make it inedible were it not for the crab's enormous size. It's big enough to where it is practical to crack open the exoskeleton and remove it, allowing you to slide out pure muscle tissue, pure meat. Eating a bug, like these beetle larvae from the pet store, this is like eating a tiny crab with the hard shell and the internal organs and everything fully intact, which is kind of disgusting to me and lots of other people, though some people do eat soft-shell crabs whole. Let's say we took these cooked larvae and we squeezed...
Well, hold on. Did I hear that right? People eat soft-shell crabs whole? With the shell? Bruh. How are your teeth still
out
on?
their meaty insides like toothpaste. People do this with a rolling pin to get the meat out of smaller crab legs. That is pure bug meat, no shell. How does it taste? Like crab. Seriously, when you isolate the muscle tissue of bugs, it tastes like crab or shrimp, except without the taste of the sea in there. There's no fishy taste in there, it's just the taste of the meat. This should be hardly surprising given that crabs and bugs are basically the same thing. So I think that speaks to one reason why so many people are repulsed by the idea of eating insects. We generally don't like eating the whole animal, particularly not ones with shells. I keep lots of tiny ornamental shrimp in my cube here. They are small enough to where I could probably choke them down whole, shells and all, if I wanted to. I just would probably not want to. But there's got to be something else going on there, right? Because I'm not scared of shrimp in the way that I'm scared of bugs, even though shrimp are water bugs. That's just what they are. Well, maybe it's because the shrimp live in a different plane of existence than I do. They live.
The reason we're not disgusted completely by shrimp, whilst on the other hand, I hear shrimp are like the sea cockroaches. They're like the cockroaches of the sea. And yet the reason we still eat shrimp far more than cockroaches, yes, I've heard people have been eating cockroaches, is simply because we don't see them. We don't interact with them enough to really understand that yeah, this guy is literally just a sea cockroach. This guy's literally just a cockroach in water. And that's the thing. Because of our lack of interaction with them. I mean, have y'all ever actually seen a shrimp just washing around the sea? Hell no. But I know y'all have seen a cockroach. So, it's like it's like how do I explain? It's like pattern recognition, all right? We are automatically at birth pretty much shown that cockroaches and other insects on land are just disgusting. On the other hand, because we typically just eat anything at sea, our pattern recognition that you probably shouldn't eat that thing is disgusting is just not being applied. Because of that, no, we're not. Because of that, we're not disgusted of anything that comes from the sea. On land, though, yeah.
Live in the water, separated from me and my dry world. They are effectively contained. I don't worry about my shrimp crawling out of the tank and swarming me. But that cannot be the whole explanation either. Like, I was just on the Gulf Coast digging up mole crabs, sometimes called sand fleas. These guys live in the sandy water, filter feeding along the beach, and yet they do creep me out a little. Maybe because their little digging legs kind of tickle you in a way that's creepy. Plus, they don't have faces that remind me of, myself. These tiny little white crabs that live just further up on the beach, these don't creep me out at all. Maybe because their little eyes stare back at me anthropomorphically, triggering my parenting impulses. I want to take care of them. Then again, show me a spider virtually the exact same size and shape as this crab, and I would probably freak out. Why? Now granted, spiders are not insects. They have 8 legs. Insects have 6. They're hexapods. However, they're all land arthropods, right? And one feature of land arthropods is they very often are poisonous in some way. A lot of them have developed venom and other kinds of poisons for self-defense and for hunting, right? Hunting. In contrast, crustaceans, like I think the first documented case of a venomous crustacean was published like 10 years ago, something like that. It's a very rare phenomenon among aquatic crustaceans. So I reckon all of those factors combined explain well enough why I love my electric blue crayfish, and I sometimes fantasize about boiling him and eating him with drawn butter, while in contrast, these perfectly harmless crickets freaked me out when I spilled them and they started hopping all around my kitchen. I suppose we all have an instinctive fear of any animal present in large enough numbers that they could swarm and overwhelm us. Maybe I'll be freaked out by the dozens of baby crabs that I'm hoping to breed in my new crab sink. It's just a kitchen sink. The water pours down from a filter output above. It falls through the bottom drain and into that white pipe at the back there, where it then drops back down again through my whole trough system and back into the filter intake that is inside the trough. I am proud of that little invention, and assuming it actually works, I might wish to promote it on the internet with a website, courtesy of Squarespace, sponsor of this video. Unless you want to forever confine yourself to the sink of some unpredictable billionaire's social media platform, you need an actual website of your own where people can find you, see some of your work, buy products and services from you, or even buy paywalled content. Squarespace kind of combines the ease of a social platform with the virtues of controlling and owning your own page. Squarespace has easy drag and drop tools to throw something together in minutes. It integrates all the back-end stuff that you need to sell things and to take people's money. Squarespace.com/Ragusea. Thank you, Squarespace. Now, it's time for the Where Are They Now epilogue. The remaining would-be Chapelinas I simply released into the yard because, like I always tell my kids, we never hurt an animal for no good reason. The beetle larvae are an invasive species where I live, or at least they're a pest species, so that is a good reason to hurt them, or in my case, feed them to the koi, one by one, so that I could verify that they all got. Oh my god, look at these two fish. They're gonna kiss, just like Lady and the Tramp. Adorable.
Companies have been trying to
How?
Companies have been trying to cut down on workers for as long as those workers have demanded pay and benefits. Whether it's downsizing, outsourcing, streamlining, understaffing, or automating, if there is something a business can do to get rid of workers and their salaries, you better believe they are going to do it. But this time does feel a little bit different. Recent AI advances have been mocked for not quite living up to the bold claims of their tech bro founders. But even in their current imperfect form, LLMs, general use robots, and generative models are already replacing jobs, and they are getting better every day. So that's bad for workers. But if you're a senior corporate executive or company owner, maybe you should be asking yourself, if we automate everybody's job, who is going to buy all of your shit?
A new study out today predicting almost half of all global jobs could be affected by artificial intelligence.
That 40% of all jobs around the world will be impacted by AI.
And found AI could replace 300 million full-time jobs, including positions
That's a
in
lot
the
of
legal
jobs.
and engineering fields.
So far, there are 9 robots here doing the work of more than 250 humans.
I have some good news and some bad news for your theoretical company. The good news is that labor reduction systems of all varieties have already cut out millions of man-hours in America alone and made the workers who are left more efficient at their jobs. Artificial intelligence is just another tool that your company can use to get more work out of fewer staff or replace teams entirely. Even here at Little Ol' Works Media Group, we used to have someone working part-time whose job it was to cut out images on Photoshop to use in our goofy little animations. Now, Adobe Suite has inbuilt AI features which can automatically remove backgrounds from any image with absolutely no human time or skill involved. Now, we love our editors, so we gave him more work editing our history videos. But there are a lot of companies that now don't need to or don't want to employ people for these simple jobs. According to a survey of 697 companies conducted by Metrigy, a research and strategic advisory firm, whatever that means, companies
What's the difference now and then? You see, the difference between now and then is that before, when a new thing was invented, when a new technological breakthrough was invented, it always created new jobs. It always created more, better, more quality jobs that typically paid more. You know, they paid well, they paid more, they had better benefits. That's the thing. But now the difference is that AI is advancing at such an alarming rate. With it's not just AI, it's the robotics industry. These two, when paired together, are like the holy grail of automation. That's the reason there are so many people are just getting laid off, getting kicked out of the job. The robotics is, capable of the robotics part is capable of dealing with physical tasks. That's a given. And the problem is it's getting better, way, way better at doing that. On the other hand, the AI part is the one that's really just the brain. It's the one capable of making your spreadsheets. It's the one capable of gathering your data, turning it into a graph. So, one is taking away office jobs, whilst the other one is taking away factory jobs. Those two jobs are like the most basic of basic jobs y'all will ever find. It's so common. So, with these two now on the chopping block, that means that basically we're the two most in the two most what the two most they're not prolific. They're definitely not prolific. They're like minimum wage best. They are minimum wage at best. the two most abundant, the two most abundant jobs are getting replaced. And the problem is the AI and the robotics are just not being created by other humans, which would, create more jobs. The problem is that the robots are being made by more robots. And the AI is, I'm pretty sure at this point, AI is capable of creating other AI. Wait. Is AI currently able to be used in the creation of other AI? Of other better AI? Yes. See? That's your answer, right? Oh, wait, no. You can create... Oh, yeah. See? AI, I mean, sure, there will still be some humans involved in them, but the more these two factors advance more and more technologically, the less and less humans will have to actually be used in order to make them. At some point, it will only really need like one person in order to keep managing an entire factory, which at that point would completely decimate so many jobs. After all, these two are technological breakthroughs, robotics and AI. And in the past, breakthroughs have always proven to create more better jobs. But these two breakthroughs, on the other hand, have pretty much shown that they can do their job of creating themselves pretty much automatically. That means that people are just not gonna get any more jobs from these parts. And correct me if I'm wrong. Comment down in the comment section. I'm not sure what jobs could possibly come from AI and robotics. What other jobs there are besides their creation? Because, like I said, the AI themselves, the robotics themselves, can kind of just create themselves.
Who did not use AI in calendar 2023 hired 89% more agents than those who did use AI in their contact centers. For existing employees, it was even worse. When AI was added to a contact center, 36.8% of companies laid off an average of 26.1% of their employees. These alarming numbers were within just 1 year. And just within call centers, which have already been hit by outsourcing, understaffing, and automation harder than most other professional services. For now. So, congratulations. Your business now has reduced headcount and significantly reduced expenses. But here comes the bad news. In 1914, Henry Ford doubled the salary of his factory workers to $5 per day. The story goes he did this because he wanted all of his employees to be able to afford a Ford Model T of their own, boosting company revenue. Now, this is basically complete nonsense. In reality, Ford just wanted to reduce staff turnover and deny talent to up-and-coming car companies like Dodge to maintain his monopoly over the growing automobile industry. But as with every good fairy tale, there is a nugget of truth in there. If the employment rate suddenly drops as hard as it did in the call centers from the study in every company around the world, then companies will undeniably struggle with reduced revenue as people without jobs don't have the buying power they once did, and even people with jobs will cut back out of fear that they might be next. But there is a business plan that you, as a hypothetical titan of industry, might want to consider so that this isn't a problem. And that's just making stuff exclusively for other wealthy business owners while diverting resources away from people who have nothing to offer you that can't be done more efficiently by a machine or a cheaper worker on the other side of the world. Now, if you think that sounds a bit...
That sounds so dystopian, right? Like, that sounds so dystopian. Selling stuff only specifically for the rich. I mean, yes, that's already happening. But doing that in such a mass scale to an entire society... a society in which jobs are being reduced more and more, that sounds so dystopian.
Crazy, you should know that it's already kind of happening.
Yeah.
And the best place to see it is in video games. Yes, those occasionally fun distractions from real life are the perfect example of this shift happening in the real world right now. So let me cook. According to Grandview...
Man, games are getting so expensive these days. Like, what do you mean one game is like $80? Bruh.
research, the video game industry is now bigger than the movie, music, and television industries combined, and it has honed in its
Woo! Yes! Gamers for the win, baby. Wait, mobile game? Oh, wow, there's that many mobile gamers? I never realized there were that many mobile gamers compared to console and computer. Wait a second, hold on. There are more console players than computer players? Really? I did not know that. I thought computers were like at least competing with mobile, and console was the least. But man, this really shattered that. Damn.
most profitable strategy. Free-to-play games are ironically some of the most profitable games on the market because they have perfected a business strategy called freemium pricing. Most people will play their games for free, but a select few, affectionately known in the industry
Online
as
game.
whales, will spend thousands, sometimes even millions of dollars on a single game to unlock in-game perks that would be almost impossible to obtain as a free user. It's important that these games still have free users though, because without them, the whales would have nobody to show off to or pwn with their paid-for advantages. In a world where people are looking for budget-friendly forms of entertainment, the game industry has realized that the best way to turn a profit is to cater to those who have the financial means, or at the very least, the credit limit, to spend ridiculous amounts of money on a video game.
Seriously? Mobile players are the people that spend the most? I mean, yeah, it makes sense. The mobile category was the most, but like, if you were to one-to-one scale it, mobile, PC, and console, who would be paying the most? Because PCs are fucking expensive. Consoles are also expensive compared to mobile phones. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it makes sense because mobile, when you buy, since mobiles are less expensive, you have more money to then, play your gacha games. Play your gacha games, yeah. Yeah.
The people who have the most financial means don't work for their money. They own income-producing assets. And if automation does replace jobs on an even more widespread scale, that will make your ability to work less valuable and simultaneously income-producing assets more valuable. The rate of change in AI and automation makes the future impossible to predict. But if the people investing in these technologies want to see a financial return on that investment, they are going to learn what the game industry already has. There is more money to be made by catering to other rich people, and everybody else can be kept around as entertainment. Now, if you think that sounds a bit
Wow.
depressing, well, welcome to this
Dystopian
channel.
as hell, huh?
But also, I should tell you that market trends already say this is happening. AI isn't going to change your world. It's just going to continue a trend that's already been happening for years now. So it's time to learn how money works to find out how companies are adapting to a world where nobody can afford anything anymore. This week's lesson is sponsored by Brilliant. Brilliant is
At some point, when do you guys think it would take us to finally say, nah, we need a universal basic income?
computational problem-solving skills by writing programs that smartphone or today with time. It works or click the link. In the 1990s,
A universal basic income. Like, everyone gets like, what would be a satisfying amount in where people can actually survive? Maybe like $2,000 per household. Yeah, $2,000. Is that even a livable wage?
1992 movie Glengarry Glen Ross, the iconic Always Be Closing scene has Alec Baldwin's character bragging to another salesman about driving an $80,000 BMW. Adjusted for $1992, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that would be the equivalent of just under $182,000 today. That is a very expensive automobile, to be sure. But these days, if you drive around a major city, you're likely to see dozens of cars that cost that much or more, and they probably wouldn't even stand out that much. According to company sales data and historic records, Lamborghini has sold more cars in the last 10 years alone than it did in all the rest of the company's history combined, because there is simply a bigger market for $300,000 cars than ever before. The same general trend is true for other extreme luxury brands like Bentley, Ferrari, Patek Philippe, luxury groceries at Erewhon, gym memberships that cost more than rent, hotels that make Hilton look like a Holiday Inn, and to top it off, private jets are all now way more popular than they ever have been. One thing that
Man, I
often
wish
gets
I had
lost in
one of
discussions
those.
of wealth inequality is that, yes, Billionaires are getting richer, but there are also far more rich people around than ever before, and it's because the value of an hour of human labor has stayed more or less stagnant, while the value of an asset and the availability of credit has skyrocketed. People who held onto an even modest portfolio over the last 4 years now have enormous fortunes. Certain individuals got incredibly lucky with good investments, and other people accessed easy credit to get absolutely jacked to the tits on leverage and ride the longest asset bull run.
Man, I wish I had some assets. You know, when I was 2006 when I was born at 2006. Wait, how much was Bitcoin in 2006? Wow, it was $0. It was $0. Basically, oh wait, no, 2009, basically nothing. 2010, 0.01. Bro, instead of saying goo goo gaga, let's play at the playground. Like, let's go to elementary. I should have been investing. Man, I was 4 years old at that point. I not only was I like 4 years old, I was 3 years old. Instead of like playing outside at the park, instead of playing out like at the streets with my friends, I should have been investing, bro. What a waste of an opportunity. I would have been billionaire. I would have been a billionaire at that point. Why? Instead of playing out in the streets, I should have been investing my assets, you know, building my portfolio at the ripe old age of 3 years old. Man.
In history, very few people have made modern fortunes through work alone. And you might have even noticed how investing went from something that you should do to secure your retirement to something you need to do to have any quality of life at all. If robots really do take over, then it will just continue to push the value of an hour of human work down, because it could be done by a machine instead. And it will rally the value of assets because business owners and investors will benefit from the free labor substitute. This is where people point to policy fixes like a universal basic income. If you haven't heard about this idea by now, that's impressive. But it's basically a government payment made to everybody, regardless of personal financial conditions, that should be enough to cover basic living expenses.
Is that $25
It's been
or
proposed as a solution to keep the
$25,000?
whole system going if people can't earn an income for themselves because their labor has been outsourced or automated. But that is still not a desirable outcome for anybody. If comprehensive automation of human labor gets as far as needing this, then you will fall into one of two defined classes of people. You will
The
either
rich
be
and
getting
the
by
poor.
based on a government lifeline, or you will be in the class of people that own the businesses complaining about all the taxes they need to pay to fund that lifeline. I find it a little bit easier to sympathize with one of those groups. But there are still no winners. Just last week, the results of one of the most comprehensive universal basic income experiments was
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. It's not like you could tax the money that you're going to give out to the people. I mean, if you're the government and you were to give a universal basic income, it's not like you could tax them off that. It's not like you could tax them off that universal basic income. That's literally your money. They're paying you with your own money. So who are you going to tax? The rich, the ultra wealthy. And at that point, it's a lose-lose situation. Because I highly doubt if a universal basic income were to actually happen, that they would actually give an even decent income. Like an even barely livable income. I highly doubt they would do that. So the people would be starving whilst the rich are getting taxed. It's a lose-lose situation. So the rich, so just a quick recommendation if you're rich. First of all, please give me some money. I'm broke as hell. And second of all, y'all don't want to automate everything. Like, it gives some jobs, man, just a little smidget.
published. The research gave 1,000 people living in Texas and Illinois $1,000 a month with no conditions attached. To qualify for this study, their 2019 household income had to be less than 300% of the federal poverty line, or $37,470 for an individual. There was also an unlucky
that per
control
month?
group of 2,000 people who were only given $50 a month. This is because when your personal finances are being studied, you are more likely to be careful about your spending decisions, and the researchers wanted to control for these changes. The study itself was funded by an organization called Open Research, which is not technically affiliated with OpenAI, but they are both managed by Sam Altman, who has been very vocal about how this technology could displace billions of jobs. Now, if you ever find yourself running an AI startup that burns millions of dollars a day, then one of the best ways to ensure that you keep that investor money coming is to pretend to be really scared about how your technology is going to replace workers, because, well, replacing workers is really exciting to investors. So realistically, this study was probably little more than a marketing stunt conducted by one of the best funded organizations in the space. But that doesn't mean that
Big
the
brain
results
move.
aren't still interesting. The key results related to employment was that the group that received the $1,000 payment ended up earning significantly less for themselves than the control group. After the payment was accounted for, they still earned more. But $12,000 alone is not enough to live anywhere in America without other forms of support. All households ended up earning more. But that was largely because this experiment started right at the beginning of COVID, when employment, particularly in low-wage professions, was hurt by lockdowns. The reason the researchers gave as to why households receiving the subsidy ended up earning less money for themselves was because many people took it as an opportunity to cut down on how much they were working and commit more time to leisure and looking after their family. This fits the optimistic idea of an AI future where we can have machines do everything for us while we just relax and collect universal basic income. But the findings still told a story of people who were financially struggling. Mental health improved because people were less stressed, but those improvements faded by the end of the first year. Food security also increased, but again only in the first year, as even people with additional income fell victim to rising living expenses, and that was when they could work to earn additional money. When compared to being plunged into poverty, it's an okay compromise. But this isn't going to happen overnight. Outsourcing turned entire cities in America into ghost towns, but it happened so slowly that big changes like this never got addressed. The endgame for people investing into automation is to build that automated utopian future. The endgame for everyone else is to make sure that they aren't excluded from it.
It's to survive.
Now, if you want to get these videos a day early and get articles that can never be made into YouTube
Nice.
videos, then be sure to subscribe
That
to
was
my
a good
email
video.
newsletter linked in the video description. Now, while everybody is worried about not getting enough work, there is one country that has decided the solution is getting people to work 6 days a week. So go
Oh my. Really? 6 days a week, bro. I would riot. I already get no sleep. So what else do I watch? Yeah, guys? To the one person that is watching this stream, thank you for watching me. Although, 6 stages of losing your jobs to AI. How will you lose your job to AI? AI. AI. Wait. Ants have discovered agriculture. What?
On the forest floors of North and South America, a remarkable army marches down a 10-lane wide superhighway with precious cargo in tow. You've probably heard of leafcutter ants or have even seen them yourself.
Yeah, I've seen
Lines
them
of ants
myself.
marching with pieces of leaves in their mandibles. But if you look closely, there's something else weird going on here. On many of the leaves, smaller ants are hitching a ride. At first glance, this looks like the ants could just be confused, getting tangled up in the commotion, and getting
It's their
accidentally
Uber,
carried
man. It's
away.
their Uber.
But
They got a little drunk.
this is no accident. These ants are performing a very important job. They're acting as sentinels, protectors of the leaf-carrying ants, defending them against a devastating enemy, phorid flies. These parasitic flies are trying to inject their eggs into the ant's body, where the larva will eat the ant from the inside
Man,
out.
imagine getting your ass laden. Wait, no, wait, hold on, pause. Imagine getting your ass, no, imagine getting laden. Imagine someone laying their eggs in you. Yeah,
Out.
there we go.
So these smaller ants, known as minims, will ride the leaves and ward off any attack. This is the moment I realized the extent of the war being waged on the forest floor, and realized that leafcutter ants are so much more than a mindless foliage-carrying conveyor.
It's insane how leafcutter ants are able to cut nearly perfectly perfectly circular cutouts. It's pretty cool.
belt. The highway
It genuinely looks like an animal took a bite out of the leaf.
of leaves is one
I mean,
small
yeah,
part of an
technically, they did
incredibly
kinda take a
intricate
bite out
and
of it.
efficient society.
But like a
And
big
the
animal, a
size and
mammal.
morphology discrepancy between the different ants only gets more extreme. Not only are there the minims, the tiny ones, and the mediae foragers, but there are also these absolute units called the majors and supermajors, who are absolutely giant compared to the rest. Clearly, the ants in these colonies are extremely diverse and extremely specialized. But why? Why is there so many different types of ants within one colony and so much division of labor? Because a colony needs to harvest and process an enormous amount of plant material, and that takes a lot of teamwork. Leafcutters are the most prolific herbivores in the neotropical rainforest, accounting for about 25% of all herbivory. Mature Atta columbica colonies harvest between 85 kilograms and 470 kilograms total plant biomass per colony per year. Collecting all this material
That's a lot
and
of grass.
defending those who do it is
Leaf, I mean.
complicated enough. But there's an even higher goal here beyond collecting leaves, one unifying purpose that is only possible with tons of cooperation and division of labor among millions of individuals. And that is farming. These little guys are farmers. This weird pile that the ants are tending to is their life-sustaining fungus crop. The leaves they
Fungus?
so dutifully carry
They grow fungus as pets? As cattle? Wait, hold on. I need to know this. Leafcutter ants farming. They use them. Leafcutter ants are not eating the leaves. They harvest instead. I thought they were using it to make their nests. I mean that's what I know. That their primary food source. They bring that leaves to their nest and create a fungal garden. By processing their leaves with their droppings, you mean poop? And then introducing fungal spores. This fungus like Leucagarius glylophorus then breaks down the plant material, making it digestible for the ants. Oh, I thought they were making leaf forts. I thought they were making use of the cutout leaves. Obviously, I still know that they use the leaves in order to make their home. But I didn't know that they also used it to feed a fungus.
back to the nest aren't their food. They're the substrate for the fungus crop. The fungus is their food. Leafcutter ants are one of only a few animals that have mastered the art of deliberate and methodical agriculture. And they figured it out 60 million years before we did. But how does an
first
animal so
farmers.
small figure out something so complex? And how do all of the ants know exactly what job they need to carry out? And what about this delicate division of labor allows these ants to transcend what almost any other creature on Earth is capable of? There are 55 species of fungus-growing leafcutter ants belonging to 3 genera, Atta, Acromyrmex, and Amoimyrmex, within the tribe Attini. The Acromyrmex and Amoimyrmex have colonies that range in the thousands, but the Atta is the genera with colonies that number in the millions.
Damn.
Up to 8 million workers in some species.
Damn.
Each gigantic Atta colony
8 million ants versus 1 human. 8 million ants versus 1 human.
usually
Who would win?
consists of just one mother queen, who is the exclusive reproductive individual, and millions of non-reproductive workers of different shapes and sizes, which are all her daughters. And there are some reproductive winged males who leave the colony. How does one mother create such diverse offspring? For us, it would be like having one kid that's 2 feet tall and another that's 18 feet tall. One explanation might be revealed by looking at the queen before the colony is even born. Each year, colonies produce young reproductive females and males, which both have wings.
I hate those flying
Then,
fox.
on one autumn night, every single flying male and new queen from every single colony within a species in the region takes flight in unison. Scientists think this synchronized flight takes place based on environmental cues like temperature, humidity, and daylight hours, along with pheromones the males emit once airborne. Then, once millions of males and females are in the air, atom mating takes place high in the atmosphere. It's so high and so elusive that it has still never been directly observed. But from what scientists do know from genetic analysis, this is unlike the mating we're used to hearing about. Each queen is inseminated by 3 to 8 different males.
Hey, yo, she getting gangbanged. Wow.
Meaning her offspring will have several different fathers in a process called
Talk about a group project. Yo, mom. I know your ass ain't talking, Larry. You're a group project. Well, so are you, Bob. We're all
obligate
group
multiple
projects.
mating. This is kind of unusual to say the least. So what's the reason for so many different baby daddies all at once? Having offspring with multiple fathers gives the brood more genetic diversity, and more genetic diversity provides resistance to disease.
Hey, yo, diversity is good, guys. It's good for their PR.
And in a colony of millions who live in close quarters, that is pretty crucial. And getting that much sperm all at once might be the only way she can keep having babies for her 10 to 20-year lifespan. Atacephalotes queens are among the longest-lived insects. She only gets inseminated this one time,
What
and
is
then
that?
stores the sperm cells in her spermatheca, her internal sperm bank. But the final reason could be the explanation for how she has so many different types of offspring. Having lots of different dads gives a much bigger range of phenotypic differences, which could lead to the big range of different sizes. But how the queen ant can ensure that she mates with the right males to give some gigantic babies, some tiny babies, and everything in between, we still don't know. So this might partially explain how such morphological
It's based on the size of the ant princess. Yeah.
differences are possible in a single colony. But what's the evolutionary purpose of creating such wildly
The size of the ant is based on the size of the ant dick. I think that's the case. I'm not even gonna search it up. I'm just gonna automatically
different
assume
babies? And what role do each of these morphs play? To find out, let's go back to the new queen to see how her incredible queendom fully develops. Before she departed on her mating flight, the new Atta queen packed a small amount of fungus in her mouth. This will be essential in starting her new colony. Once she is inseminated to her satisfaction, the queen lands on the ground and sheds her wings. Here, she will excavate a nest chamber in the soil. Once inside, she spits out the fungus she's been storing and feeds it with the first few eggs she lays. Within 3 days, the mycelia have begun to grow. For now, the queen cultivates the fungus garden herself. But soon, she will need help. And for this
She'll need her
reason, the
little
first
farmers.
batch of offspring she will have are the minims, the smallest ants of the colony.
Hell yeah, child labor, let's go! Not only do they have farming, they even got child labor up in here. These ants are smart, man.
These smallest of ants take over tending to the fungus. Their small size allows them to maneuver easily within the delicate fungal structures, removing waste and secreting bodily fluids to keep it healthy. Soon, slightly larger ants hatch, and they are just big enough to leave the nest entrance and begin to forage in the immediate vicinity. They collect bits of leaves and add them to the fungus culture. And on top of foraging, all of these worker ants so far are also the ideal size for tending to the brood. At this point, the queen stops doing any fungal tending and just becomes an egg-laying machine. And now, the colony can take care of all of the essential tasks: egg-laying, brood tending, foraging, and fungal maintenance. But this isn't enough to ensure the colony's survival.
Wait, hold on. She said that ants, leafcutter ants, could get up to millions, right? Up to a population of millions. I highly doubt a singular queen could do that. So, do leafcutter ants have multiple queens? Oh yeah, yeah. That's how they do it. That's how they do it. I was just wondering, like, ain't no way a singular queen could lay millions, right? Like millions in her lifespan. I mean, sure she probably could, but not whilst they're alive. You know, we're taking into account the actual living ants. For 8 million to be alive, that is insane.
Survival, because predators are
queens.
lurking nearby.
Multiple mommies.
Army ants are known to raid
What is
leafcutter
that?
ant
Those are
nests and prey on leafcutter brood young. And larger animals like birds, bats, and spiders are known to feed on atta queens. Without adequate protection, leafcutter ant colonies would be pillaged. So at this point in the colony's
Pillaged.
life cycle, a new
Minecraft.
caste of ant emerges. The
Minecraft.
soldier caste. These extremely large major ants don't have any formic acid, they don't have a sting. But what they do have are extremely sharp mandibles
Big
powered
muscles.
by massive adductor muscles. Their heads can measure 5 millimeters wide and they can weigh around 50 milligrams.
I just realized
And they are especially
their
good
heads
at
look like
defending
butts.
against large enemies. Large soldiers can even pierce human
Oh.
skin.
Oh, damn! I felt that. I mean, not
And
physically,
this bite
but like
force is around
emotionally,
2.5
psychologically.
times greater than scientists thought it should be. You might expect that a soldier ant that is 30 times as heavy as a smaller worker would have a bite force that is 30 times as strong, but it's actually around 80 times as strong. Scientists analyzed the heads of
Talk
these
about
massive
exponential
soldiers and
growth.
found the reason to be an increased amount of muscle volume compared to the smaller ants. And with these absolutely yoked bodyguards, along with some of the smaller workers
Some beefcakes in here, huh?
also taking on defense tasks like against the parasitic flies, the leafcutter colony can grow their numbers and even expand their territory. But with increasing numbers, the colony needs increasing food. Therefore, the colony needs the fungal garden to grow larger. And for this, they need much more leaf mass. And the minims can no longer keep up with foraging duties. Enter the Mediae workers. These medium-sized ants are built to foray far into the world to gather resources, in the form of tons and tons of leaves. Unlike the minima, who can carry out a number of different tasks like brood and fungus tending and minor foraging, the Mediae workers do little else except cut leaves and bring them home. This intermediate size is optimized for exactly this job. With all of these different sizes of ant, there's one obvious question. How do the different worker castes appear in the right order? And how does the colony ensure it has the right number of each of them? It all comes back to the queen. The queen lays eggs with varying nutritional content, which contributes to size differences in the developing larvae. And the size of a developing
Whoa, hold on. Whoa, hold on. Is my hairline cooked? Is my hairline cooked, guys? Is it cooked? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I'm cooked. I am cooked. Damn. I think that was I think that was a little bit. Alright, it's good enough. I'm cooked. My hairline's receding.
ant larva determines
Male
which
pattern
caste
balding.
it will become. This, along with the different baby daddies, gives rise to all of the different phenotypes. How the queen knows when it's time to lay the right eggs and inhibit the growth of some versus others probably comes down to environmental cues. But with all of her workers now hatched into the world, the colony can truly blossom. During cutting, a worker usually anchors her hind legs on the leaf edge and slowly pivots around the body axis, pushing the cutting mandible through the leaf tissue. This is why their cuttings are usually semicircles. As they cut, one side of the mandible inches across the leaf and the other drags as it cuts. The head of a leafcutter has strong muscles attached to its mandibles, and the mandible itself is made of chitin nanofibers and proteins, and coated in a heavy element biomaterial, a mixture of proteins and zinc, making them as durable as a stainless steel knife. And when you compare these mediae mandibles to the minima mandibles, you can see a clear difference in form, with the media mandibles much more robust and specialized for cutting. This sharp and durable anatomy allows leafcutter ants to cut thousands of leaf fragments in its lifetime. But there's one more thing that helps a leafcutter ant cut leaves that is kind of unexpected, and that is sound. If you listen closely to leafcutter ants cutting leaves, you hear some clicks. That is the sound of the mandibles cutting the leaf, and you'll hear a background sort of humming or chirping. This is a high-frequency vibration called a stridulation, and it's produced by the stridulatory organ. This organ is located on the gaster and is made up of a file and scraper. When the ant rubs the file against the scraper, an audible vibration is made. And this vibration stiffens the soft leaf, making it easier for the ant to cut it. And these stridulations serve another incredible purpose. Ants can use them to communicate. If you've seen video clips like this, leafcutter ants have the tendency to completely demolish certain leaves, while leaving other leaves almost completely untouched. The leaves that get demolished seem to be more desirable. Maybe they are more tender or have more sugar quantity. And in experiments, scientists found that significantly more ants stridulated when cutting tender leaves than tough leaves. And similarly, when the scientists coated the leaves in sugar, almost all of the workers stridulated. The vibrations are affected by the quality of the leaves, and the stridulations act as a way to communicate to nearby ants to come and get some. This is one of those moments where it's fun to wonder which came first. Did the stridulations evolve to facilitate leaf cutting, and the communication about those leaves came as a result? This is what I would have guessed. But scientists think it's actually the opposite, that facilitation in cutting leaves is more likely an auxiliary benefit emerging from the communication process. Scientists think this partly because this stridulation is used in other contexts for communication as well. When an ant accidentally gets buried, for example, they stridulate to call for help. And the vibrations are used to coordinate things like nest building and excavation. But these vibrations are only a small part of the communication of leafcutter ants. Their chemical communication is one of the most robust in the animal kingdom, and much of it occurs on harvesting routes. If you ever wander into leafcutter ant territory, you might notice a parting of the leaves on the ground, like Aunt Moses himself had been there. But this was no Aunt Moses. It is a leafcutter trail, cleared fastidiously by thousands of workers. Of all of the animals in the world that construct trails, like elephants, cattle, or voles, Atta ants have the most complex trail construction behavior. Workers remove vast amounts of vegetation, cut passes through large obstacles, and level the soil to make a smooth surface. On average, colonies clear nearly 3 kilometers of trail per year, and these routes lead masses of foragers.
That is surprisingly straight. Like look at that. Sharp ass right turn right there. And sharp ass left turn. Like, bro, that is so square. Man, if you didn't know any better, I'd think these ants were like in school or something. Like they're learning geometry or something.
To and from harvesting sites. And the way the ants begin these trails and continue to follow them is not through vision, but through scent. The ants chemically mark the trail with secretions from their poison gland sacs with 2 goals in mind. 1, to recruit other ants to join the trail, and 2, to create a long-lasting orientation cue. To recruit other colony members, the ants release a particularly volatile chemical signal, which makes sense. So the signal travels farther and can attract ants from farther distances. And to leave a lasting chemical signal that delineates the trail, the ants release a chemical that is much less volatile, which also makes sense as volatile signals don't last very long. And the volatile compound in some Atta species is mind-blowingly effective. Scientists found that workers of one Atta species follow trails with minuscule amounts of their volatile ant trail pheromone. Scientists artificially laid a trail for the ants to follow and found that for a distance of 1 meter, only 0.4 picogram was needed to induce trail following behavior. A picogram, for reference, is 1 trillionth of a gram. By this math, just 1 milligram of this pheromone would be enough to lay a trail 60 times around the planet, with the ants still following it. And this is possible due to the incredible olfactory system of Atta ants. The olfactory pathway begins with the antenna, where the olfactory receptors are located. Sensory neurons carry the information about the scent to the antennal lobes within the brain. The antennal lobe is packed full of glomeruli, which are spherical structures that process and organize information about smells. The number of glomeruli is a good indication of the fine-tuning capacity of the olfactory system. For example, the Drosophila fruit fly has only 43 glomeruli in each antennal lobe. Atta ants can have as many as 459. And with this advanced olfaction, ants continuously perceive the chemical trail signal and do so with high fidelity. Here on these scent-laden highways, sometimes 10 ants wide, millions of foragers carry leaves back to the nest that are easily 10 times their body weight. And leaf after leaf is added to the ever-demanding fungus colony. The ants can't digest the cellulose in the leaves directly. Almost no animal can. Most animals that do eat tons of cellulose, like cows or koalas, have microbes in their gut that do produce enzymes like cellulase to break it down and extract nutrition. But ants don't have a gut microbiome like this, so instead they use fungus to digest the leaves externally. The fungus Atta ants grow is called Leucoagaricus gongoliformis, and it produces enzymes that degrade leaf polysaccharides like cellulose into nutrients that ants can digest, like glucose and amino acids. The ants receive this in the form of tiny swollen hyphal cells that are like little packages of metabolites that can be eaten by ant farmers. And what is deeply fascinating about this particular fungus is that it grows nowhere else on Earth. It only exists within the colonies of leafcutter ants.
If that's the case, then how the hell did the leafcutter ants manage to make this? Because first of all, what did the leafcutter ants before the fungus eat? I mean, I would imagine like meat, like cockroaches, other dead animals, stuff like that. But on the other hand, if that's the case, then where did the fungus come from? Like, if it only grows specifically for those ants, and that there can be no other place those fungus can be found, then I'm assuming that that the ants literally genetically engineered this thing. I'm just joking, but like, how did the fungus come to be if the ants? Because the behavior of farming the ants need to also be evolutionally added into their evolution. They need to be able to know what to do with this fungus. They need to know how they're going to take care of this fungus. So how did the fungus manage to exist before the ants gained the ability to take care of it? On the other hand, how did the ants gain the? If we were to look at it from the opposite side, how would the ants have gained the ability to take care of the fungus if the fungus didn't exist yet? It's like a chicken versus the egg debate. In any case, I'm gonna go get some water. I'm gonna let the video play.
This is remarkably similar to human crops, derivatives of things that used to grow in the wild but have become
GMOs.
dependent on humans to exist. But without much thinking or planning in the human sense, how could this possibly come to be in the world of ants? The ancestor of modern leafcutters lived in a very wet and warm habitat around 50 million years ago. In the leaf litter of this climate, many types of parasol mushrooms grew. The ants in this habitat at some point evolved to eat this type of wild fungus, and sometimes it sprouted nearby or within their nest in waste piles. They then evolved to bring some vegetation inside their nests intentionally to have plenty of nutrients at home. Scientists consider this evolutionary step to be lower agriculture. But then, around 35 million years ago, a global cooling event occurred, and the once warm and wet habitat was now cold
Water.
and dry. The fungus could no longer survive out in the wild, but it could survive in the temperature-controlled climate of the ant nest. And from here, the ants slowly evolved to do things to actively maintain the fungus, like adding fecal drops, clearing debris, eradicating harmful bacteria or other fungi, and most importantly, bringing it tons of fresh leaves. Scientists call this specific cultivation higher agriculture. Over time, the fungus evolved to become reliant on the activity of the ants, and thus became completely isolated from the outside world and could no longer exist anywhere else. And over time, ants lost the ability to eat much else. For example, ants likely lost the ability to make a key amino acid, arginine, because they had a ready source in the fungi. So really, as much as the ants are manipulating the situation to survive, the fungus was doing the same. A natural codependent relationship, aka a perfect symbiosis. And just like in human societies, the ant species with the most advanced agriculture rose to ecological dominance. This is how Atta ants became the dominant herbivores in neotropical rainforests and can have colonies that number in the millions. But all of this incredible fungus farming and the enormous number of workers needed to sustain it require a colossal nest. For decades, scientists had dutifully studied the behavior of leafcutter ants, but little was known about the mysterious underground structure. How were these nests designed, and how big were they really? To find out, scientists came up with a pretty incredible method. They filled the nests with concrete and then
Was the nest dead? Was like, did their entire colony get wiped out before they dropped the concrete in, or did they like drop the concrete in whilst the colony was still alive, subsequently doing the most overkill mass extinction event for a colony?
excavated around it to get a 3D
I
structure.
mean, imagine just living your day, just having the time of your life, you know, feeding your larva, getting them leaves for their fungus pet, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, concrete falls from the sky and just encases your world in a world of cement. Turns your world
What they
to stone.
found is that Atta nests have vast and complex internal structures. Atta nests typically have thousands of elliptical and circular
That's so cool, though. Like, look at these. These are like the equivalent of like buildings or houses to them. These are like, these small pathways are like, look how deliberately smaller and narrower that is. That's like a driveway. That's like the pathway to a house. Whilst this one is so much thicker, it's so much bigger. It's because it's meant to accommodate so many more people. Just like the highway. It's so cool.
chambers. These are the fungus chambers. One Atta levigata nest was found to have over 7,800 chambers, and they can be located as deep as 7 meters underground. And some nests
What's this? Refuse chamber? What's a refuse chamber?
studied had as many as 60 openings. This is important because carbon dioxide can build up and is toxic to the ants. But decaying organic material in the refuse chambers raises the temperature of the nest, causing the warm, carbon dioxide-laden air to rise and flow out of the openings.
Whoa. You're telling me these ants have the capability know what thermodynamics is? What? You're telling me that they know that because of the decaying matter here, it will produce heat that will make the air, since hot air rises, it moves the carbon dioxide built up by the fungus and pushes it out of the air, out of the vents.
In
I'm
turn,
pretty sure this colony leafcutter ants are smarter than some people. No, it's not just. I'm pretty sure. I'm actually just straight up sure that they're smarter
cool,
than
fresh
some.
air is pulled back into the nest through other openings. This creates a sort of air conditioning system. What social ants can achieve far surpasses almost anything else in the animal kingdom. Looking at their enormous structures, their sophisticated agriculture, their precise division of labor, You can just feel a level of intelligence here that is incongruous with such a tiny little insect. But ants have the biggest brain-to-body ratio of any animal in the world, of 1 to 7, meaning their brain makes up around 15% of their body weight. For humans, it's just 2.5%. This is partly inevitable with small creatures. A brain can only be so small and still function. One ant has around just 250,000 neurons. But if you take this brain power and multiply it by 1,000,000, the neurons in the total colony is on par with the total neurons found in one human. And this is why when you look at an ant, rather than seeing it as an individual organism, you should see it more like a liver cell or a blood cell in our bodies. It is the unit of a much greater whole, a part of the superorganism. The evolution of intelligence in different species is probably my favorite topic within all of biology. How animals so far apart on the evolutionary tree became hyper-intelligent in different ways. Ant intelligence evolved primarily through social behaviors rather than individual cognitive complexity, whereas human intelligence evolved through a combination of social complexity and an explosion in individual brain capacity. The path to higher intelligence in humans is unlike anything else in the animal kingdom, and it's something I've explored in depth in a 5-part Nebula original miniseries called Becoming Human. In this series, I explore the major steps in human evolution, from toolmaking to hunting to long-distance running to language to the birth of consciousness as we know it. Each episode explains how one adaptation cleared the path for the next, allowing us to become the upright, hairless, emotional, intelligent, and world-dominating apes that we are today. Nebula is the streaming platform we built for exactly this reason: to create original content that takes a little longer, has a higher production value, and explores areas that we want to take a deep dive into, things that don't always work on YouTube. Before I get into how great Nebula is, I know so many of you are sick of being asked to sign up to yet another subscription service where I got put on Nicholas Chris.
Is this the end?
Nebula. You can
Is this the end?
link in the device of
Alright, this is the
$3
end.
a month.
Yeah. Thanks for watching the video, guys. And, please, don't mind, oh, what was I gonna say again? Beans. I forgot what I was gonna say, so I'm gonna just say beans. Beans. Damn. Well, that's satisfying. You know, I've never really tried making ASMR before. I'm gonna save this
Jacking
for
it.
later. Save this for later.
Choking the chicken,
I'm
flicking
not
the
re-
bean, yanking your chain, having a wank, ringing the devil's doorbell,
Screw it, I'm gonna watch it now. Hell yeah.
shucking corn, singing soprano, polishing the yogurt rifle, and as it's become known in jacking it. Choking the chicken, flicking the bean, yanking your chain, having a wank. Choking the chicken, flicking the bean, yanking your chain, having a wank, ringing the devil's doorbell, shucking corn, singing soprano, polishing the yogurt rifle, and as it's become known in recent years, gooning. Why am I talking about this? Is it for the ad revenue? Because as we all know, sex sells. Is it because I had fun coming up with a bunch of ways to say that you're doing the vertical tango with Pamela Anderson and her 5 sisters? Well, yes, I did, but that's not the point. The idea for this video came from a recent post I saw on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. If Elon wants me to call it X, he can pay me. Like that one girl he allegedly...
What am I even
Ethical
watching?
gooning habits. No AI. Support small creators. No gatekeeping. Be open-minded. Lube up.
All right, I'm gonna give my genuine thoughts on the AI part of gooning. Those AI art on like Rule 34 actually suck. Like I genuinely hate the fact that there is like no filter that just allows me to like take away all AI photos, like all AI generated content, because there's just so many AI gooning material that it just kind of overrides the, more modern, more natural gooning material, man. It's so annoying. Like I have to scroll like 4 more slides in order to get my actual natural gooning material, man. It's so annoying as hell.
Be aware of the current political and economic climate.
Why?
Well, that last one's just good advice in general, but anyways. And this wasn't the only one that I saw like it. Trying to goon on R34, but 95% of the results are AI.
Yeah, that is a genuine problem I'm having. Like, bro, stop with the AI, man. I wish they had a filter for that thing.
Art. And it got me thinking about AI in general. AI has become so integrated into
Oh
our
wait, no, we're not talking about gooning? I'm disappointed.
lives in what feels like the blink of an eye. It was around before, but things have definitely accelerated in recent years. Everyone was familiar with AIs that controlled NPCs in video games or that ran calculations, but things are much different now. Now it seems like every website you go to has some built-in AI assistant, or they're boasting about their new AI-powered features. And the most damning indictment of this new generative AI has been its effects on video, audio, and art as a whole. Generative AI is notorious for being trained off of artists' work in order to imitate their styles. The end goal here, of course, being to get the artist's work without actually paying the artist. Because God knows those billionaires have to save every penny they can, right? Look, everyone's entitled to their own opinion on AI, but some of us still choose to opt out of it whenever we get the chance. And this video was inspired by some of those conscientious objectors. Because following the original tweets, I saw tweets like these. I'm an ethical gooner. Of course I type -AI_generated before beating my meat. When I'm at the ethical goon session.
Whoa, hold on. That's actually a prompt in Rule 30. I'm gonna try it out later. Later.
-AI_generated before beating my meat. When I'm at the ethical goon session, someone links the artwork that we're gooning to.
Hell
the
yeah.
ethical gooner rides into town at sunset. Tomorrow they'll be hanging innocents, and he's here to shoot ropes. Okay. Okay, that last one was just because I thought it was funny, but you get the picture, right? This is a real movement and I took note of it. This video was inspired by this curious collection of coitus connoisseurs, ethical gooners. So to understand this, let's break the term down. The ethical part comes from their conscious decision to not participate in any pornography created by AI. Lots of people post their tips and strategies on how to procure content that isn't AI generated. The gooner part is a slang term that's seen a surge in use in recent years. Its use is often derogatory, which is arguably bad, and people have talked about that, and I'll get into that in a second, but just hold on. And the term is far from new. Definitions from the website Urban Dictionary that date back as far as 2006 recognize the term as having been around for a while by that point, which would put its origins in the 90s or even earlier. And on that tangent,
Imagine
I've
being in
seen
the
claims
90s
that
and getting called a gooner.
it originated in queer spaces in the 90s, and I've tried to find evidence to support this, but the most that I've found has been discussion of the fetish on some gay sex websites, but even that was as recent as like the late 2010s, so if anyone has...
Do I have a PhD in goonology? Man, do you know who you're talking to? Bro, I can't even... I have never once completed No Nut November. Alright? I have never, not once in a day in my life, not beat my meat. In a day. The average time I take to beat my meat is around 3 hours daily. And that's with the fact that I have school. I beat my meat before and after I go to school, alright? I go to school with that post-nut clarity. Oh my god,
anything more on that, I'd be very interested to learn about it. And I understand research on this is hard because a lot of queer history wasn't well preserved. I'm definitely getting old because I remember a time when a goon was just somebody that a bad guy hired to
I goon to this character a lot.
do his dirty work. I have this shirt from when I used to skate that I can't wear anymore because now it makes me look like I'm part of some premium gooner club, so thanks, evolution of culture. I'm someone who believes in seeing both sides, and I'm not entirely opposed to the idea of AI. AI has always been around us. I mean, without it, I would have a 0% win rate in Counter-Strike.
Without AI, I would not be able to pass my school.
But hit
I would have a failing grade.
Here, oh, you what the fuck? What the fuck?
Average
Get
age
one
of
of
my
them doing it.
teammates.
Yes, yes. There we go.
What's that? Not backstab.
I won, yay. I'm a gamer, Mom.
They burn my friend.
There are certain tasks that I think AI is good for. Consider the following. You're a video editor and you have 2 cuts to make. One cut involves syncing some video to some audio. Pretty tedious work, but simple. The other cut is very intensive and might involve the use of multiple programs. It will take up a lot of time. Doesn't it sound like a nice idea to let AI handle the syncing of the audio and video so that you can optimize the use of your time on the more intensive cut? I think 9 out of 10 people would say yes, and 10 out of 10 AIs would say yes, but that's because I train them to say yes to anything. Watch. Hey AIs, is Silksong ever gonna come out?
Yes.
See, they don't know what they're talking about. The point is, AI has its place in our workflow. Ideally, I'd like to work without it entirely, but AI has been here and by all indications is here to stay. So
AI has practically integrated into my life like a missing piece of the puzzle. Like, I straight up don't think I could live without it anymore. I have lost all capability of actually studying for my exams. I literally just ask AI. I literally just ask ChatGPT the topics and I just scroll through it like really fast. On the other hand, I also never do my assignments anymore, which is a lifesaver, man. I have never, ever since the introduction of ChatGPT, I legit have never had to actually touch my assignments. I've never had to actually make my assignments for a solid 2 years now.
So if AI is now permanently affixed in our day-to-day lives, why not use
And in all honesty, assignments should be deleted from existence. Like why? Why do we even have them? So the biggest waste of time ever.
it constructively? Why not use it to reduce the time that humans spend doing menial tasks, thereby optimizing the time we spend being alive, instead of using it to bypass the creative process entirely? If you are using AI to be a creative, you are not a true creative. If you are using AI to optimize the time you spend on things that get in the way of your creative process, you're still a creative. You probably hate that you're using AI at all, but you respect its place and don't try to use it to get around creating entirely. These are broad generalizations, and I could spend hours talking about the nuances of AI and whether or not art created with the assistance of AI is even real art at all, but first of all, my degree is in communications, the most bitch-made degree of all time, and definitely not the credentials that qualify me to talk about this sort of thing. And second of all, I don't want to edit all that. It's gonna be a bitch to even edit this footage, but guess what? I'm still gonna do it because I'm in love with the process of creating. And in spite of all my bitching, that's what I think is at the heart of this issue. People who truly love creating will never skip out on a chance to be part of the creative process. If I wanted to make a painting in a certain style, I would learn from an artist experienced in that style. I would study the techniques of those I want to emulate and practice what I see and learn. I would spend time honing my skills organically. If you want to see something, make it yourself. If you want something to jack off to, grab a chisel and a stone like the old days.
Hell yeah.
Cavemen were the most ethical gooners of all time. No, I haven't forgotten that this video was initially about pornography, but listen, topics evolve. This
Sauce.
is bigger
Sauce.
now.
Someone
That's
comment
what
down
she
in the comment
said.
section, please.
Anyways,
Sauce.
as I was saying, if I
that a
want a
game?
certain piece, what I
gotta
wouldn't
try it
do
out.
is steal another artist's canvas and then call it a creation of my own, because I didn't make that. I wouldn't go to a machine, give it a prompt, and then sit back and watch as it flings paint at a canvas.
I forgot her name. I think this is GLaDOS, right? GLaDOS from Portal? Oh. GLaDOS. Yeah, GLaDOS. Hear me out. GLaDOS
Give it a
is a baddie. Look at this. If you look at it closely, she just looks like a beautiful lady hung upside down. Alright? Do I need to explain it
prompt
anymore?
and then sit back and watch as it flings paint at a canvas until it vaguely aligns with the style that I gave it a command for.
I have actively gooned to GLaDOS. Yeah, Bados over here. Damn, bad as hell.
And does it as quickly as it algorithmically deems possible. Because in doing that, you're turning art into a commodity, when art was originally never about how fast or how easy you could make it. Art is what happens when you have something that burns inside you so hard that you can't ignore it. No matter what, it's in every part of your life, and you won't stop until you find a way to share it with the world. You bend metal into shapes. You find notes on a scale. You crush stones and blend paints to make the colors that you see in your head. You line up the perfect shot. You make the perfect cut of fabric, and you take joy in every moment of it because it makes you feel alive. No matter how tedious or painstaking the process, true artists will never give up because nothing will stop what we have in our heads.
All art is made with imagination. In art, if you see an art in a museum, it will most likely be because the artist, the person who created that, imagined the art. They thought about it. They thought about the art. They wanted to show it to the world and gave it physical form. They gave their imagination physical form. That's what art is. Imagination in physical form. And the reason AI cannot be considered an artist, or anything developed or created by AI can be considered art, is although yes, it can still be considered created by AI, it is not art, because art is the representation of a person's imagination. At least that's what I think. And because art is a representation of a person's imagination, AI creations, like AI generated images, will never be art because there was no imagination to put into the essence of that generated image. There's no thought behind it. There's no... People keep saying soul, but I believe it's actually their imagination. There's no imagination in the creation of AI generated images. That's the reason I will never consider AI generated images as art, unless AI were to advance to a stage where they are truly and well and truly capable of self-thought, consciousness. I will never consider AI as art. AI generated images as art. There needs to be imagination into it. Thought.
That originality and soulfulness will shine through no matter the production quality, and that's what I appreciate seeing in art. And I'm not the only one who thinks this way. I'm not the only one who wants to see originality in all facets of art, including porn. I found all sorts of tweets from both sides of the argument, and listen, I'm not the arbiter of good and evil. I'm not here to declare whether gooning is morally correct. What I'm here to talk about is the general consensus that people recognize soulless AI art. And there's a non-0% of people that are standing up about it. They're demanding more, not just for their goons, but for your goons. And for my goons too.
Ever since the creation of AI or AI generated images, I've seen quite literally the most trash ass goon material in my life. Like, seriously, ever since the beginning of AI art, AI generated images, I have been seeing the most trash ass gooning material in Rule 34. It is so sad, man. Like, there was genuine quality before. What happened? Disappointing.
They're fighting for the world's goons. And I, for one, stand with them.
Yes, I stand with you too.
If you don't stand for something,
Whoa, 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 hold on.
Stand with them.
remember.
I stand with you too, but like what? What movie is this?
If you don't stand for something, you'll fall.
What
for
movie
it.
is this?
AI-generated
What-
content will never go away
Comment that
because of the
comment section,
permanent
please.
nature of the internet. But the same can be said of true creativity. And as sure as that spark burns within artists, and as sure as my outfit has gotten more slutty as the video has gone on, the world will always have original
has?
content.
You know what? I'm gonna
But
check.
we have to help keep it alive.
We can leave behind much more than just DNA. Through speech, music, literature, and movies, what we've seen, heard, felt, anger, joy, and sorrow. These are the things I will pass on. That's what I live for.
I'm dying alone.
We need to pass the torch. And
I will
let
never
our
find a
children
woman.
read our messy and sad history by its light. We have all the magic of the digital age to do that with. The human race will probably come to an end sometime,
My
and new
genes will never be
species
passed
may
down.
rule over this planet. Earth may not be forever, but we still have the responsibility to leave what traces of life we can. Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. It's a little bit outside of the realm of normal stuff that I do on this channel, but I like these little off-topic videos and things that give me a chance to talk about.
No, ma'am. No, man. What you're talking about is important. It is the essence of humanity, the essence of human creativity, and the very spurts of human life in literal ropes. What is this? This is merch. You know what? We gotta support these creators, man.
One. Oh, it's a big knife. Look at that. It's a big knife. See, it looks like this.
Hotbox creator, spring.com.
Just
In
imagine
any case,
that I'm
guys, thanks.
jacking it.
Oh yeah, his clothes have been getting sluttier. Like, look at this formal man right here. Slutty fuck right here. Damn. Great video though. Thanks for watching, guys. No. White-haired Din Chipping Vinaville. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but no. I refuse to buy viewers on Streamboo. I ain't gonna buy viewers. Like, bro, that's pathetic. Why would I buy viewers? I'm just gonna actually get viewers if people like my videos. And which people will do, right? Y'all like my videos. To the one person watching my videos. Y'all are liking this, right? What happens when you never mature? They're mad. AI artists are mad at me. AI artists. Yeah, quotation marks right there. Dating as a Gen Z adult.
Life is like a race, except you're the only one running it.
Running from it, bro. I'm not even going anywhere. I've moved none. Since stupidity.
American students are violent.
Hold on. Let me see the things that I can watch. I do not do well with horror. Why you suck at writing within the other side? Hold on. Let's go to my history. There we go. I got like time for like 2 3 more videos, maybe. Yeah, these 2 are gonna be it. Let's go. I mean, we talked about gooning. Now let's talk about school fights. And then we're talking about dating.
But at the same
Something
time,
that
you can
will never happen to me. Okay, something that will never happen to me.
life is like a race.
Dating.
Except you're the only one running it. But at the same time, you can see everyone else running theirs. I'm in my 20s now, and I think it's probably the most awkward time in anyone's life. On one hand, there's people around my age who were steadily working their careers, climbing the corporate ladder.
20 is that age in where you know you should be acting like an adult, but the problem is school really hasn't prepared you for the adult life, so you just don't know what the fuck you're supposed to do. You're just staring at there like it's like the equivalent of being given an assignment in which you have no material on it whatsoever. Y'all have no idea what to do, so you just stand there looking at it like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Going out on the weekends and living the typical adult life. And on the other, there's still a lot of us trying to figure it out. But I think out of all the good things you can have in life, the one thing most of us want more than anything is someone to do it with. When I look around, I see a lot of my friends in long-term relationships, and some of them have even gotten married.
Oh, damn, it's morning. I didn't even realize.
But I also have a lot of friends who are my age and have never even been in a relationship. Dating as a Gen Z adult is an interesting experience because dating comes with a lot of expectations. What do guys expect out of girls?
I'm scared
What do
of
girls
women.
expect from a guy? What does one partner expect from the other? There's this constant push and pull between what people want from each other romantically, and social media is only making it worse. It's why I think a lot of younger people think that romance is dead. Because social media is full of unrealistic expectations that I don't think 90% of young adults can meet. Yo, bro, what's your type? Well, I like short girls.
My type is woman, alive, exists, and is a decent person. Like, let's be honest, we actually all want a decent person as a partner. Like, we're not looking for something extra special. We just want a decent person, you know? Someone with some common sense, some understanding, some empathetic, you know, tendencies. But even then, I don't think that's even all that common. Common sense is a scarce... It is a scarce resource nowadays. Y'all gotta keep that. Y'all gotta keep that stuff for...
But
I
I go to the
later
gym,
use.
so I also want her to be fit too. And I kind of like when girls have a bit of an attitude, but I think confidence is hot. So I want her to have a lot of pride as well.
You'll never find
okay,
a
so
girl.
you said short, fit, has an attitude, and a strong sense of pride. Yeah.
Might as well have said doesn't exist at that point.
Bro, I don't think you want a girlfriend. I think you want Vegeta. Now, I'm not blaming social media for being the reason people are single, but I think sometimes people forget that social media is just a caricature of reality and that most things shouldn't be taken so seriously. Every other day on Twitter, I see people getting worked up over hypothetical situations that would never happen in reality, but they build...
On God, people who think that the person's social media image are their actual personality in real life are straight up stupid, because there's no way that that's actually the case. Everyone is always putting up a front. Everyone's always got a mask, especially in social media. Me though, no, I don't give a damn. I pretty much
built their entire
just
perspective
exist
on
as me.
relationships around it. Babe,
Or to be more specific, I'm too lazy.
would you love me if I was a worm? What?
No.
If I got magically transformed into a worm, but I was still your girlfriend, would you still...
How long does a worm live? All right, let's end this debate right now. How long does a worm live? 2 to 7 years. I'd love you for 2 to 7 years, then you're
Love
gone.
me? I mean, how could you be my girlfriend if you were a worm? Wow. Just wow. What kind of question is this? Why would you even be a worm? This is why men deserve less. How am I supposed to date a worm? The truth is that there are a lot of really cool people out there that are looking for someone compatible to spend their time with. But a lot of the time, we only get to see the negatives. And sometimes this causes us to shut ourselves down before we even give someone else the chance to possibly say yes. Believe it or not, I've had girls that were interested in me tell me they were afraid to approach me because they didn't think they were my type. But the truth is, I don't have a type. Superficial things like someone's height, weight, income, or other things are temporary. And if you base your relationship with someone on those things, then the relationship will also be temporary. I'm not saying you should treat relationships like the stock market and invest in someone you don't find attractive, hoping they glow up into a supermodel. I just think that a lot of times when you talk to people, most of them don't care that much about looks. Sure, there are shallow people out there, but not everybody is gonna like you. And it's not always about your looks. It's like your boy coming to you like, it's no use trying to date, bro. Girls don't like me because I'm not 6 feet. No, bro, don't say that. It's not because you're not.
Bro, I've literally met someone like half my height. Like, I think it was like 5'5" something. Bro's got a girlfriend. So no, guys, this is a public service announcement to all men. Men who are 5'5". Oh, my phone is dead. Oh yeah, I guess that's the end of the video. Oh yeah, and in any case, I'm gonna watch this stuff later at a later date, a later stream. My phone died, which is bad because my phone is actually my camera. So yeah. In any case, have a great day, guys. I know I am. So thanks for watching the stream. I stream every. Hold on. Hey guys, don't need this anymore. I stream every Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Yeah. Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I stream at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think I do. What time is it, right? Yeah, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, yeah, please, if you guys like my videos, I would really recommend you that you watch my videos. It's not that I'm recommending, I'm actually begging. Please. 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 And yeah, guys, thank you for watching the videos. And have a great day.